Hello, good afternoon. You are locked into Revive FM 94.0 on the Power Hour with your host today, Louise Power. This show is about community matters, diversity and inclusion, a platform for women, leadership, entrepreneurship, and inspirational stories. And today I have a fantastic show for you. I'm very privileged to have Dr. Ollie Folayan and Dr. Nikkei Folayan. Welcome to the show today. So much for joining me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
I have to move a little bit over to. Hi, Nikkei.
Oh, she can't hear you at the moment.
That's okay. It might take. We'll give her a minute or two.
Yes. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. I am doing very well. Can you believe we're in the month of February already?
Already, yeah. Time flies. Time flies.
It really does. And I'm in the south, and you're all the way up in the north.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So there's two of you in the south, down south, and I'm keeping the balance, the north-south balance.
Yeah, as you do. Can you hear us now? We'll give her.
Yeah.
We'll give her a minute. Yeah. So how is life in Bonnie, Scotland?
It's good actually. The sun is out today, which is not the usual experience here in Scotland. But we've had a few days of like heavy winds, and my fence needed to be replaced because it's been sort of blown away by the wind.
Oh gosh. So you'd have to replace that one. You won't be able to put it back then.
That's well. We got somebody who said they could do some repairs for us, so it's hopefully not going to be too painful.
What's
Too
going
painful.
on? I can hear you now.
Hey, we can hear you now. Hello.
We can hear you and we can see you. Can you hear us? Yeah. So yes, in London as well, it has been quite sunny here too, which has been really nice. I see people out and about doing a little bit more leisurely activities, and I think what's quite nice is people have started to socialize again, like
Oh
meet
yes.
people. Have you done any in-person meetings yet, like real ones?
I have. Well, I've actually been in some in-person gatherings. Mostly post-Christmas parties.
Oh, I know. Sounds about right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We are trying to
Yeah.
make up for it. Well, hopefully this year, with the news that we have in terms of the pandemic calming down slightly,
Yes.
we will have a little bit more of a relaxed year and
That's right.
opportunity to socialize and meet people. How are you getting on, Nikkei? Is it the is it my sound that she's not able to hear?
Unable to hear us both, it seems. Is it worth logging out and back in again?
Yes, that may be.
Right. Okay. I thought so.
Yeah.
Oh yes, the bottom bar.
Probably best to log in and out again.
Oh, she's unmuted. Yeah, so it's unmuted now. So hello.
Can you hear us?
Oh, she can't hear us.
Right, because we heard her, didn't we, when she was?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
When she was speaking.
Yeah, we'll go for the best engineering solutions. Log off and log back in again. If something doesn't work, switch it off and switch it back on again.
Whilst Nikkei's logging off and logging in again, would you just like to Yeah, just update me on what's been happening in in uh in the world of engineering, or in
Oh,
the it, well, there's lots. I know there's lots going on. But
yes,
yeah,
yes,
just in terms of, I know there's been lots of movement in terms of the Association of Black Engineers
yes.
since that we last met. Congratulations on all of the partnerships. There's so many to mention. I'm
That's
sure that
right.
you can fill me in.
Yes, yes, yeah. There's been quite a lot that's been happening. I mean, one of the big things that's happened in the last year is that Nika finally was able to go to Windsor Castle and receive her MBE, her investor job, which is pretty exciting, given where we started all those years ago. The idea that fantastic well, just that seed would take us all the way to Windsor Castle. We never thought that would happen. So that was quite quite a special moment. I've also seen that for both of us, the founders, we're starting to have, when we started AFBE, what used to happen is that we had two compartmentalized aspects of our lives. We had our jobs as engineers, and we had the work that we were doing at AFBE. What's happening in recent, especially in the last year, is those things coming together. So I was fortunate enough to get a visiting professorship to the School of Engineering at the University of Dundee. And that is actually drawing on as much of my AFBE experience as it is my engineering experience. And so it's just a good example of just how far things have gone. And yes, as you said, multiple partnerships are being formed with some of the most recent ones are with a company called GKN Aerospace, and they are a huge defense company. We've signed up Bechtel, Worley is another big engineering company, signed up with us recently, and many others. And that's been really encouraging. I've also had the opportunity to influence policy on some panels. So there is a lot being looked at within the manufacturing sector at the moment, on, particularly in Scotland, how we can ensure we've got better diversity and inclusion. And I've been part of a panel looking at a number of measures there, and we're exploring everything from leadership to issues around the ethnicity pay gap, and so many other issues, flexible working and so on. So yeah, it's been a very interesting time to be around and interesting time to be involved with AFBE. We set up a leadership course recently, just in the last month, and it's a leadership course called Transcend. And Transcend is aimed at people who have gone really far in their careers. They've been working as professional engineers, and this is now saying, what is it going to take them to, they often say for Black employees, it's not a glass ceiling, it's a concrete wall. So
Yeah.
how we break that concrete wall and get into leadership roles. So that's going on at the moment as well.
Yeah, how do we break those ceilings, those glass ceilings,
That's right.
and barriers? And I've been watching your story, from the beginning of AFBE and how far you guys have come, and the partnerships and everything else. So just for those listeners who are not familiar with the Association for Black Engineers, what do you do?
That's fantastic and very direct question. Thank you. We are a not-for-profit organization, a network of about 2,000 engineers across the UK who meet together and are bound together by our love of the engineering profession. But we aim to achieve three key objectives. We want to attract more talent into the sector, because there are many people out there who don't necessarily know that engineering is something that is good for them. They have perceptions of engineering that's based on the people that come into your house to fix your boiler, and they think that's an engineer. And so we want to attract more people. We want to retain more people, because we know from evidence that the industry loses quite a lot of, there's a huge interest in going to university to study engineering, but the industry starts to lose people after university, and that's because of issues to do with getting through the door, and issues around retention, and around retention or progression within the profession. And then we want to raise leaders because there's an underrepresentation there. And we run, we run what we call a cradle to grave approach to our work. And that's who we are.
Has there been, because I remember when you and I had our first conversation and you gave me so many like golden nuggets and information about the disparity in the world of
Yes.
engineering. And you shared your awesome backstory. You told me when you set the world on fire. We'll save that for later.
Yep. I can't wait for Nika to actually come and tell you about.
Yeah,
She was a lot more virtuous than me. She wasn't throwing flames or
I
anything.
can see.
She was
Yeah,
just trying to make things work, be constructive, actually. Unlike
hi, Nikkei. Welcome to the Power Hour.
Hello, we got there in the
Hey.
end. We got there. Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us. Don't worry, we're in a technical world, and sometimes it works perfectly, and other times we just have to wait on things to happen organically. So that's absolutely fine. Would you do me a favor and move slightly to your? I think it will be your
You're right. Yeah.
right.
Oh
Yay.
dear. Hey, we got there in the end. I having the sweaty palms now because I was just like, oh my gosh, I was looking forward to this, and the technology is letting us down. So
Don't worry. We'll speak for a bit, then we'll take a natural break in the radio anyway. Then you'll get a moment to have a cold drink, and then it comes straight back on. But don't go anywhere when you go on the break.
okay, try not to. Yeah.
Stay right there. Yeah, Nikkei, thank you so much. I've got the honour of having you both here. Congratulations on your MBE recently as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners and just a little bit about you, and then we'll speak a little bit more. We'll go back into where we was before when Ollie was giving us a bit of an update with the AFBE.
Okay, so I'm Ollie Folayan. I'm an engineer. I work within telecommunications transportation. So all your railways, highways, whatever you can think about it. If you need to get from point A to point B, I'm probably involved somehow. And even when you're walking, I'm probably involved because you probably have your phone with your GPS and you need to get to a place. So yeah, that's my claim to fame. I am also co-founder alongside Ollie of AFBE, which is an organization that was set up by us to inspire people to consider careers in engineering and just to be the voice for the underrepresented people within our profession.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's actually awesome the work that you're doing. I mean, both of you have given me a summary this morning, integrally about what you're doing to bridge those gaps. What are some of the? I mean, essentially, for all of the commercial industry since the untimely death of George Floyd, things have just gone through the roof, and diversity, equity, and inclusion is taking. People are taking it more seriously,
Thank
and
goodness for
so they
that.
should. And yeah, and so they should be. What's happening in the commercial space with engineering in terms of the work that you're doing in terms of trying to bridge those gaps. Have you seen an increase in the types of roles that people from underrepresented groups are being employed? Have you seen massive big changes since you've started to incite some of this work?
So 15 years ago, when we started AFBE, it's like I I always used to say that it's like you this is not very nice, but it's like you walk into a room and as soon as you mention AFBE, you're kind of like, okay. You're the enemy, and that's changed specifically since George Floyd. For us, we always say that we were talking about diversity and inclusion when it wasn't so sexy, and now that we've brought sexy back, where it's the centerpiece of sexy within engineering. So organizations who in the past would say, this is not for us, we're very inclusive, are starting to realize that, okay, we need to do something. They need to do something about it. So for us, progression has been painfully slow for a long time, and then all of a sudden, it's accelerated. And I remember I used to be sometimes so frustrated that I'd call Ollie on my way to work, just complaining about one meeting or the other that I've been in, and as soon as I've talked about diversity, they've thought, oh yeah, the gender issue, and I'm like, nope, actually it's the other issue that I am, because I can't separate one from the other. And
Yes.
that was one of our biggest frustrations, particularly within engineering, where diversity for a long time was seen about as something about gender. But in terms of what your question, which is a key question, in terms of seeing people represented in organizations, I think we still have a long way to go. One, for an industry that has a male dominated community, you'd expect to see a lot more ethnic diversity and black men in senior positions, but we, I think we know all of them. Between myself and Ollie, we know all the senior black
In
people
the
within the
UK.
UK industry, which is still a problem, because it's not that we don't have the skills or the
Yes.
talent. Is that those opportunities somehow elude certain communities, and even when we talk about ethnic diversity, you're more likely to see someone from an Asian background in those positions than you'd see someone from specifically from a black background. So there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yes.
Yeah, it's some of the like I done a panel recently, and I spoke about the power of difference, and some of the what happens with diversity, equity, inclusion is all through fear. People having
Yeah.
fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of how to have those conversations, fear of the difference, and rather than embracing the difference. When I was young, I certainly wouldn't have thought about the fact that it would be a black woman that would be, helping me find my way down the road. Like you were saying, all of that technology, everything that you're involved with, and that you have been part of, emerging all of the fantastic things that we benefit from every day. And I would like to say thank you. And the fact that you're a role model, you're an inspiration, but that is not something that I would realize that I would be able to, that would be an aspiration or inspiration for me when I was young, because you cannot be what you cannot see.
That's
That's
right.
And
right. Yeah.
represent you and the representation there. And Ole had started just before you came back on to talk about some of the social impact, some of the work that you're doing through social mobility, and how you are involving partners now to help to create those positions for people. So it'd be really good to if you could just extend that, Ollie and Nikke, a little bit about, so because we really want people to listen to this, to watch this, to replay it later, and it'll be on Spotify. We'd like to get it out to the commercial market, to get them to know about AFBE, what you guys are doing, and why the partnerships with AFBE are really important, so that we can keep increasing the footfall and the social mobility.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll say that the work that we've been doing has been, in many ways, there's been a lot of work for the people who could potentially benefit from the value of a career in engineering. And then there's been a lot of work done for those employers and institutions that are in some way have the good fortune of being able to manage this talent. And I think what we've seen certainly in the last year, especially with our ability to now be able to hold events online as well as in person, is that we were able to do something which we weren't able to do before. And I think we spoke about this when we spoke last year, Louise, which is creating an environment as opposed to just an experience. And what we've been able to do through repeated programs, whether it's the work placements that people get, or some of the exposure that they get to the Thames Tunnel project, or some of the coding clubs work that we've been doing, and some of the Saturday sessions that we've been running, is that we've been able to, if you like, expose these young people to some of these experiences over and over and over again. What used to happen is you'd go into a school, and until the next year, that young pupil never sees you. And if all you have is sort of a flash in the pan, you don't really get that continued experience. And in many ways, that what we have been doing in the last few years is really an extension of what we've been trying to do for the last 15 years, which is work within communities. So for a very long time, quite a lot of the work that we were doing was under the radar, but it was working with those people who really needed the help. And we have seen numerous people in it. It's so nice now that we're now starting to see some of the people that we came across years ago who are now in the profession. And I think I may have told you the story of somebody talking to Nika and saying, "I can tell you don't remember me." And it turns out that this is somebody they met when he was still a very young boy, who's now a member of AFB's executive board. And so we've been doing a lot of that work. But what we've been doing a lot more of, even especially in the last couple of years, is really working with the organizations. So we have about 55 corporations that we're running programs in. And we come up with a working agreement or something we'll work on for the next 12 months. And it covers issues around recruitment, and it covers issues around workplace cultures, and it covers issues around how they can help their talent progress to senior levels and help increase that representation. But as Nick has said before, we are still, we must not mistake the loudness of a vocal minority for the voice of the majority. There is still a lot of work to do, and there's still many people that need to get the message.
Thank you so much, Ollie. While she was speaking, I was thinking about social-economical disparity, because that's one of the things that I've been looking at in the DEI sector at the moment, and I've been speaking about, and I'm part of an organisation where we're writing a paper, and I'd like to ask you: do you think these organisations, these commercial spaces, really understand the socio-economical factors? And Nikkei, do you want to speak about that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, and I forgot to say thank you for this opportunity to be on your platform.
You're most
Um, yeah, I think you're right in terms of people know that they need to do something. They know that they need to do something, but what they need to do, they don't really know, and just a lack of understanding of the challenges kind of people face. I was talking to Noah, who happens to be the young person that we met at 16 and we didn't recognize, and he's now an engineer. And he was talking about, people going into school and their boilers broke at home, so they haven't had a shower. They've had a cold shower. They've had to come into school. No one knows that. No one knows what the backstory is, and they just assume these young people are behaving a certain way and haven't understood the challenges that they've had to go through, or the young lady that is expected to look after her younger ones every day and still has to study, still has to do well, and still wants to get into the best universities. So the intersection between, and there's a strong, lots of statistics that shows that ethnic minorities specifically experience these barriers. So there's an intersection between social mobility and the community that a lot of people don't marry up, and the expression of what it means to be a black person in the UK has to consider all those factors. And even where those factors are not involved, you still have the issues around biases, you still have the issues around discrimination, and racism that you have to deal with. So whichever way you cut the cookie, you have some major challenges that you have to deal with, and sort of the assumption around what your social status is and your social background, even that is another issue in itself. If you don't sound a certain way, if you don't drop your T's, if you don't conform, that could be seen as a barrier as well, because then people can't place you in this box, this neat box of, oh, ethnic minority, or this neat
Yeah.
box of social mobility that they want to place you in.
Yes. And funny thing is, with that specific point, it can work both ways. It can work with a person who does not sound like they expect you to sound as a person of color, or the person who does sound like is true to their background, and it can work against you. It can work against you both ways. I mean, sometime in December last year, I was invited to this meeting, and it was a meeting of industry leaders, and they were specifically talking around net zero and how we can meet the challenge of the climate emergency. And then they came on to this issue of talent, and particularly the next generation. And all of the conversation there was around young people aren't interested in this area, and that we just don't have the people. And then they'd ask me a question, and once we started to talk about the fact that actually 31.8% of all undergrads studying engineering at the moment, UK domiciled, are from a Black and minority ethnic background. Somebody then sort of reflected to me afterwards and says, so what are we talking about then? Because we've been saying there's no talent, but actually you have a number of people who for systemic reasons have a hard time getting into a job, even when they've got the exact qualifications as somebody who has a name that sounds white. And it's those kinds of issues that do need to be addressed. But because you have this chasm almost between those people who happen to be the leaders within the industry and where the talent actually is, there aren't enough people who are from those communities who reflect those communities. There is that gap of understanding. And so you will have somebody come to an event like one of the ones that we organized, and after looking at everything that we were doing, their question for me, which they just kind of sprung on me unawares, was, do you make money out of this? Because for them, it was, they just couldn't, it just didn't connect. You do this stuff that you don't get paid for, and there's nothing wrong with being paid for it. Why are you actually doing this? You must have some other motive. But that just reflects the kind of disconnect that there is often between the industry leaders and the people that actually they need to bring into the industry.
I'm enjoying this consultation so much. This is a free consultation.
We haven't even talked about flames.
You haven't set the world on fire yet, Nikkei. Let me tell you about that last interview that he done with me. So I'm going to take a break on this free consultation. You guys are lucky to be getting all of this information and golden nuggets. You haven't even had to pay for it. You are so lucky. We're going to take a break. It's about a 4-minute break, naturally through the radio. Please do not touch that dial. You are locked into Revive FM 94.0 on the Power Hour with my powerful guest. We'll be right back. I'm just trying to.
It's cold here. Being indoors is the same as being outdoors. You could heat a home and keep a family alive this winter. Just £150 can provide a family with a stove, fuel and blankets. Through Muslim Hands, help someone survive winter. Keep them warm, keep them alive. Donate now at muslimhands.org.uk.
सुनने वालों को सलाम। हम हमारे स्टेशन पर आपका खैर मकदम करते हैं। एंटीवायरल मोलनुपिराविर रेगुलेटर की जानिब से तस्दीक शुदा लाइसेंस शुरुआत में वायरस से मुतासर होने वालों का इलाज किया जाता था। वायरस को जिस्म के अंदर फैलने की रफ्तार कम करने या बिल्कुल खत्म करने, इलामतों को शदीद और पेचीदगियों को काबू में लाना है। एंटीवायरल को अच्छी तरह समझने, उसके फवाइद जानने के लिए 6000 से ज्यादा लोगों को ज्वाइन करने की जरूरत है, जिससे NHS के प्लान के मुताबिक कि किस तरह से इस्तेमाल करने से मदद मिलेगी। कोविड-19 एंटीवायरल यूके में यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ ऑक्सफोर्ड की तरफ से ट्रायल की जा रही है। इसमें हिस्सा लेना बड़ा आसान है। आपको एंटीवायरल कैप्सूल खाने को दिया जाएगा, आपके अपने ही घर में, और 5 दिन का दौरानिया है। हिस्सा लेने वाले चाहें तो किसी वक्त भी खुद को विथड्रॉ या खारिज करवा सकते हैं। अहल होने पर आपका कोविड-19 टेस्ट होने पर पॉजिटिव का होना जरूरी है और पिछले 5 दिनों से इलामतें शुरू हो चुकी हों। 50 साल उम्र के जायद हों। 18 से 49 उम्र के लोगों का भी हो सकता है अगर उनकी कोई मेडिकल कंडीशंस हो। हम मुख्तलिफ कम्युनिटी के लोगों को उनके अहल होने पर उसमें शिरकत करने की दावत दे रहे हैं। लिहाजा ये ग्लोबल तौर पर जिंदगियों को महफूज बचाने के लिए ये मौका है। इसके लिए panoramictrial.org पर जाकर साइन करने का तरीका जानें।
अगर आप वजन घटाना चाहते हैं तो ये इसे ठीक करने के बारे में नहीं बल्कि शुरू करने के बारे में है। सेहतमंद तब्दीलियां किसी न किसी तरह छोटी तब्दीलियों के साथ शुरू होती हैं और आपको अंदर बाहर बेहतर महसूस करने में मदद करती है ताकि आप सेहतमंद हो और अमराज से लड़ने के ज्यादा काबिल हो सकें। आपका वजन कम करने में मदद के लिए NHS के पास बहुत सी तजावीज हैं। सर्च करें बेटर हेल्थ। आइए शुरू करें।
Turkish Kitchen, the best Turkish food you'll ever taste. We only use the highest quality meat. Along with our mixed grill platters, we serve cold mezes, hot mezes, lamachin, and a wide selection of fish options. To order for delivery or collection, call us now on 0208 507 8822. That's 0208 507 8822. Or visit us at 41 Ripple Road, Barking, IG11 7NT. We can also take group bookings and take care of all your party needs. The Turkish Kitchen, Barking.
Taj Grill invites you to the world of Pakistani cuisine. With every dish prepared to perfection, why not try our sizzling mixed grill, our famous masala thing? We choose from our selection of freshly made curries and allow the Taj Grill experience to speak for itself. Visit us at 72 Ilford Lane or 508 Ilford High Road or call 0208 262 6476. We also offer catering for all your events. Call us for more information.
If you want to advertise your business on Revive FM, then visit www.revivefm.co.uk or contact our sales team now on 07944 565616. That's 07944 565616. Advertise with Revive FM.
Revive FM
94.0 on the radio,
on your mobile,
and online.
Hello, and welcome back to Revive FM 94.0 on the Power Hour with your host today, myself, Louise Power. This show is about community matters, diversity and inclusion, a platform for women, leadership, entrepreneurship and inspirational stories. And I'd like to say welcome back to my two consultants, Dr. Ollie Folayan and Dr. Nike Folayan. Thank you ever so much. Before the break, they were speaking, they introduced themselves and they were speaking to us about the Association for Black Engineers and also speaking to us about the disparity within the industry. So welcome back. And I just wanted to extend actually on some of the things that you were saying. So in all occupations, there's some information here from Nuffield University, and that it says here that what Nigerian sounding names would need, for example, 8 CVs for a follow-up, as opposed to a British sounding name needing 4. And they also done collected some data that we needed to send out people that look like us CVs, 3 times the amount than people with those British sounding names. So really interesting the way in which, it's always that against the grain, that harder journey that we need to make, isn't it, all the time, respective of our industries.
That's right. Yes, I mean, there are so many studies that show that we still have all of these biases in the way that we perceive people and the way that we perceive the world. And sometimes that means that a person looks at a CV or they look at a candidate. But there is this backdrop of all kinds of perceptions that they have, which they project onto the candidate. And that often means that we're not actually, what it means is that we're not getting the best talent. So that, there are times when very often this issue around diversity and inclusion is framed as a way of giving others an opportunity. And we would almost put a link between that and social mobility. But in reality, what it really is about those perceptive filters by which we view others being removed so that we can see talent for what it is. If anything, it's a search for competence rather than some way of giving everyone else an opportunity. And obviously the loser from that kind of approach of discrimination are the businesses and the communities. And so that ultimately that's what this is really about. It's about it is about a search for competence.
Yeah.
And ultimately it's becoming in businesses' interests to start to think about this, because you're going to end up with the blockbuster HMV effect if they don't keep up with the times, and if they are not doing what a lot of other businesses are starting to realize, they're going to be phased out soon enough.
100%. I mean, it says here 6 months after graduating, Black minority ethnic engineers in full-time work already encounter a pay gap. Yeah, not a gender pay gap, just anybody, they encounter a pay gap. Is this some institutional bias issue, or is this because there's a lack of knowledge, people don't know what salaries to ask for, or a mixture of both?
I think personally, I think it's a mixture of both. I think the fact that we've been taught to be grateful for what we're given, and not to demand any more. And I encounter, because I mentor a lot of people, so I encounter this all the time, where we're just grateful that we've been included, and it's almost taught behavior from our families as well, to just be grateful that we've had this opportunity, instead of thinking I'm the prize here, they're lucky to have me and I should be demanding. So that's one side of it, but the other side of it is the expectation that you're naturally expected to accept a lower offer. You're naturally, and when you demand more than you're expected to demand, that becomes a problem for a lot of organizations, because then you become a problem. Like, who do you think you are? I've encountered this because I tend to I tend to I tend to have a lot of mentors, including Ollie. So, if you're offering me something, I will check with my mentors that this is acceptable. And if they think, actually you're more value than that, I will come back to you and I will ask for more. And sometimes some people actually someone had once said to me, Nikki, come on, you're asking for too much. But the reality is that before I demanded what I was asking for, I checked with a number of people at that same grade level, and I wasn't asking for even anything more than they were getting. So I think that there's an expectation in society, if you're an ethnic minority, that you will accept less. And from our perspective as well, there's an expectation that you should just be grateful, and that needs to change. And I'm really glad with Gen Z, because in Gen Z that is changing, because they're realizing the value of who they are and are not demanding for less than they deserve.
Yeah, there are some things I think about an organization where integrity comes into it. And if you've employed that person because of their capabilities, their willingness to want to work with you, and the ability to do that role, so you should pay them accordingly. And if there is a lack of knowledge there, I think you have a responsibility integrally to let that person know that they've come in too low, because once they find out, they'll be leaving anyway, and then we're back to retention again, and then we're going round and round and round, and then there's no representation again. So it's if these organizations really want to embed this cultural change, they're going to have to take the steps to actually put things into action, be transparent, and say, this is what we're doing. These salaries like to get something in the middle of the night in the dark. This is something that something that we are really real movement we're trying to make. I have a question for you, Nikkei, actually, about being a woman in the world of engineering, and the work-life balance, how that's been for you, the two intersections of being woman and being Black. So it's a big question, and just about the work-life balance and managing that, and how that has been for you. I'd be really interested to know.
Thank you for that question. When people talk about work-life balance, I always say, "What is it?" I don't know. I haven't really worked it out yet. I always say to people, there are times that you work hard, and there's times that you life hard, and it's just deciding what the priority is at any given moment of this. And to be honest, I can say this because I'm at a level where I can say this. For lots of people, it's a real struggle to be a woman in an industry where there are certain expectations in terms of your technical knowledge and your expertise, but there's also a lack of recognition many times that that you're not just one dimensional, that you have a whole life around you that you have to work around. And with the pandemic, that's made that really worse because you join a meeting. Actually, just before Christmas, we had a kind of meeting with a client, and as I was presenting, my 18-month-old at the time barged into the room to have his own say on on a meeting with a client. And my natural instinct was just to feel a bit embarrassed initially, to say, "Oh gosh, this doesn't look good." And I had to correct myself to say, well, this is life. We're in a pandemic. This is life. I am working from home, and these things happen. But I can imagine that if the same thing had happened to me a few years ago, I would have been in a really, really bad space mentally for a long, long time. Even issues like how I wear my hair. I remember a colleague of mine once turned up to a meeting, the head wrap, and after the meeting getting a call from another woman saying, you're so unapologetically African. And she was like, no, I didn't have time to do anything with my hair. I'm not trying to make a political statement. This is who I am. So issues around that are more prominent. Also issues around, you're expected to be a certain type of subservient, and I tend to do the opposite. So I get into lots of trouble because, for example, going into a meeting and I say something and no one kind of seems to listen, and someone else who is male and probably white says the same thing, and all of a sudden everyone agrees. So one of my my meetings, I said something and that happened, and then someone says, Nikki, do you agree? I was like, yeah, what Bob said. So next time, just direct the question to Bob, don't ask me. And it made everyone laugh, but it made everyone think about.
Yes.
So there are still issues around, just generally as an ethnic minority in the industry, expected to be the quiet one in the meetings and expected to have an agreeable opinion. And as soon as you start to have a difference of opinion, sometimes you're seen as problematic. But I've learned to kind of just well, I made sure that from an expertise perspective, you need me to be working on your project. So you will do what I say because that's the right thing to do. That's my approach. Not everyone can do that, but that's the approach that's really helped me, because for a long, long time, I was bullied in this industry. So I know how it feels to be bullied, and I won't be bullied anymore.
Wow. I definitely believe you. but more importantly, kudos to you. And again, I'm inspired as a mum, as a single mother. I navigated the space of entrepreneurship and the DEI space and everything else. So, and the world of tech. And you have to find that balance, especially around gender parity, around so many different things. Then everything interlinks. Those intersections continue to interlink socially, gender, race as well. And it's something that it's a superpower, really. It's something that we do all the time. We don't think about it. And there's other, when I done a panel recently with a panel, and there was some free white women who were speaking to me, and we had a really, really open conversation. And they were saying, and one of them said to me, actually, I never thought about that before, or I've never had to think about that. And I think these are the things where we really get an opportunity to open people's minds when we have those peer-to-peer conversations. What would you say needs to, what are we looking at ahead now in your industry? We're looking ahead 2022 and beyond. You've been in the thick of it. You've done awesome amounts of work. You know, everybody in industry, we all know what the barriers are, but what do these organizations need to be doing in the future, apart from making sure they get partnerships with AFB, of course? What what else do they need to be thinking about in terms of retention? You know, is it co-mentoring? Do we need to go to these executives and sit down, top down, and say, let's have a conversation? You know, do we need to bring in external speakers? Are we having these? Are we having a co-mentoring space? What are the things that we need to be doing at the top level to say all this work's been done now? This is what we're looking at for the future. Ollie, do you want to go?
Yes, I mean, I think that 2022, if there's a slogan that we want to use for 2022, it should be time up, and it's time up for performative allyship. So the question I would ask to any leader of any company right now is, when it comes to this issue around racial parity and other things, but specifically around racial parity, is, do you really want this? Because if you don't, we can always have a banal conversation about how diversity is good for the future and how we can quote McKinsey's at you and tell you how good it is for your business. I've never particularly liked making that argument. If you're all a bit nice to me, you might earn a few extra bob. It's not an argument that kind of really appeals to me. But the question we would ask leaders is, do you really want this? Because if you want to have a proper conversation around it, then we recognize that in many ways the businesses that don't follow through, you know, Nick gave a very good example there of, you're a mother who is an engineer working within an organization, your child walks in. If you still have a culture in which people freeze at that moment or think of that as a distraction, that person is going to go away and go to another company where they understand that a person needs to bring their whole selves to work. So if you're interested in this, and it's going to be vital for the future of your business. And once we start with that basic understanding and that basic acceptance that you need this for your survival almost, we then start to look at some of the more practical areas. So how do we go about getting this talent? And that for us is linking up with the community. Every city in this country will have parts of that city, or parts of where you are, where there are children, a high proportion of children on free school meals, and where there are issues around social deprivation. Can we find a way to ensure that when we are thinking of where we do our campaigns, we are thinking about those contexts? Because as it happens, that's also where a lot of minorities also tend to be statistically. And then we talk about also what's happening when people actually come into the company. Are we truly building an inclusive culture? And are we starting to interweave aspects around D&I and embed them into areas to do with progression, areas to do with appraisals? Can we make a commitment to diversity and inclusion a competency on which people are appraised when we're looking at how well they're doing for the company? And then we then start to look at issues around progression. And, you know, we look at the supply chain, all of those businesses that often understand that in order to be considered favorably for whatever it is they're bidding for, they need to be able to demonstrate social value, and not just in the sense of, you know, we give a bit of money to charity here and there, but we're actively, our engineers, our staff are actively committed within this community to actually creating a change and ensuring that our companies become a true reflection of the community in which we're based. If we're not doing any of those things, these are now not moral things to do. They're things that a business needs to do in order to stay relevant and to come into the 21st century. And so that's the question I come back to any business leader. Do you really want this?
I'm just like, honestly, I don't even have anything to say. That is a lecture, and that is an important one. Do you really want this? Yeah, and I think that, you know, this, take the tick box exercise away from the fact that the fundamentals of what we have to do to get by. But do you really want this? And Nikkei, would you like to extend on that?
Yeah, when Ollie said, "Do you really want this?" I just thought about a song.
I know the song.
Yeah.
You guys are so fun. I need to get up in Scotland. What I think about with you two, what I think about is how exceptionally well you've both done. And, you know, Ole did speak to me a little bit about his colourful childhood. And, and I think, you know, having both, the fact that both of you have done exceptionally well, I know I keep saying it, but it is so inspirational because there are so many kinds of, I don't want to keep saying barriers, but things that make it quite difficult in some of the Western societies for people from underrepresented groups. And as siblings, you've both done exceptionally well. Was there something like, Nikkei, that you can remember from your childhood, perhaps, that helped you to stay focused?
To be honest, it's for me, it was just having role models. I didn't really have a choice in terms of in terms of kind of everybody ahead of me was kind of is kind of a trailblazer in their own right. And I never have felt that I couldn't do something because of my gender. You know, it was always kind of, both our parents were always about, you can do it, and it doesn't matter what anybody says or thinks. You know, I used to have conversations with my brother even from a young age, where I just kind of thought, you know, I want to be like you when I grow up, because I didn't have you know, as young as I was, I kind of understood that you've got to do well. Got to do the best that you can. The society needs to be fair. That was mostly from our mum. And even if it isn't fair, you've got to do well.
Yes.
So those messages, reinforcing those messages of you know, regardless of what's going on around, regardless of the challenge, regardless of whoever thinks you can't do it. And I know that Ollie spoke about our mom talking about someone saying he could do better, and that was the attitude. It's like you know, you're doing the best that you can, and that's the most important thing for us. And that's really helped us, and that's really helped me in times when I've kind of felt really discouraged. At some points I wanted to leave this industry because I always say I had a demon for a boss. Like literally, you drop down from hell straight into my domain, and you know, but but somehow I got through that because I had people like Ollie to talk to, and I'd sometimes on weekends I'd just spend time. I had this black book where I used to write all the horrible things that had been said to me, and just having someone to.
It's so serious.
Yeah,
It's a very, very serious subject. Like, you know, as much as well, the way that you did illustrate it. I mean, I started to. I'm a visual person, so I just.
So, but the main thing is that we've got to. I know there are barriers, and there will always be barriers, but we've got to kind of keep the prize in view. And once you have the prize in view, regardless of barriers, you will fight for that prize, not because it's a prize, but because you deserve it, and you deserve you have value, and that's the most important thing.
100%.
That's right.
One of the things as well that I've found, speaking to different guests, speaking to people from different places in the world, is that when people come from other countries to the UK, there is I'm not saying that there is an ambition from here, but when you've come here specifically to change the legacy of your foundation, to change, to generational change. I think there sometimes is a different parenting objective. And at another time, I would like to perhaps bring you both back when to speak about the differences even within our own underrepresented cultures, right? The differences, because I know that some cultures, you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Actually, no, there's no talking about anything else. What are you talking about? There's no nothing else. That's what you're going to be.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. What was it? Lawyer, doctor, accountant, engineer, or disgrace to the family?
That's it. Or who are you, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
And actually, I think that as much as some of those expectations do come with their own individual pressures,
yes,
that I would have appreciated growing up some of that kind of incubation, because I think that, you know, within our own communities, again, we have so, you know, we're Black people from different parts of the world doing things very, very differently, and there's a type of unity and lessons that we can learn from each other as well.
Absolutely.
Even within our own communities. So I know that will be a different show, but
absolutely,
we've got like 1 minute, so I just like you to tell. I'm going to have to get you two back. And by the way, we share a mentor, because I'm not too shy to ask Ollie, am I, Ollie, when I need you. So Nikki, I'm sharing your mentor. I'm just
That's great. That's fantastic.
I learned from both of you. So.
I never gave him a choice, by the way. It was just, are you free on this day, because I need to talk to you.
Yeah,
good. That's how you do it.
And that was it. How can people find you? And just if you just let people know how they can find you, and then of course, I'll put some more information up when this is released. But it's been brilliant. Just let people know how they can find you.
Well, you can find us via our website, www.afbe.org.uk or www.afbescotland.org. So you can reach us there. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram as well. We're not on TikTok, but
not yet.
Maybe those belly dancing videos will make it to TikTok.
My break dancing career is about to start, so I might go on TikTok.
That's it. And the next time you're here, I would really like to do engineering explained, right? Because what I found with tech was that people didn't know what's tech, and now I know it. But I would love to do engineering explained, especially for the younger audience, because so they can see everything that's sort of under the umbrella of engineering, because it might not be as hard or as difficult or as far a reach as they think it is. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you ever so much for joining me today. I'm honored. There's been nothing's happened. And, you know, Ellie knows what I mean. We made it. We made it.
Yeah.
He told me that story, and I've never forgotten. When he was younger. Well, thank you both so much. Nikki, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. You're a complete inspiration for meeting you. Ole, a pleasure, an honor, absolute inspiration as always. And
thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you ever so much. And this will be on Spotify after the show, plus all of the links with which we have provided already today. So have a fantastic weekend, and we'll speak again very, very soon.
Thank you. That was great. Thanks very much.
Bye.
ये आयशा है। ये बहुत छोटी सी थी जब इसके वालिद का एक हादसे में इंतकाल हो गया। वो अपनी माँ और छोटे बहन भाइयों के साथ रहती है। आयशा जैसी लाखों बच्चियां जिंदगी की बुनियादी सहूलतों से बिल्कुल महरूम है। यही वजह है कि वो स्कूल भी नहीं जा सकती। मिनहाज वेलफेयर फाउंडेशन ने आपकी एहतियात और अपनी खिदमत दुनिया भर के यतीम और बेसहारा बच्चों के लिए वक्फ कर दी है। एक यतीम और बेसहारा बच्चे का सहारा बनिए। आज ही अतिया कीजिए। अभी कॉल मिलाएं 0300 3030 777 या हमारी वेबसाइट विजिट करें
www.minhajwelfare.org.
Thinking of selling or letting your property? Need someone reliable to find the best prospect for your home? Well, look no further. Cameron Adams is here to take care of all your needs. Our